First of all, I have to give credit due. Let's see here. Over here, Benjamin Sundance asked, and I saw that, and I said, hell yeah, because Benjamin Sundance is the one that showed this to me. I was over here at my Was This Atlantis page posting. You can see the link. Just go to facebook.com Was This Atlantis page, and you can find these locations yourself. And the place, if you saw the thumbnail, is the Grand Canyon. I think it's incredible. So let's take a look around. This is for topographical purposes. You can't really get to these places very easily, and the place that I'm looking at is right here. This mound here, it just seems so out of place when you compare it to the rest of what's going on. As you may have seen in previous pictures that I just showed you, you've got this other, what I call quarry. Now let's talk about it here. It's so high up, right? Well, the Grand Canyon was changed by water. Uniformitarianism is actually a bad word now to say things happen so slowly. I grew up thinking the Grand Canyon was created over millions and millions of years, but now we're learning that some events cause things to change even more recently. The question is how recent? Now, one thing about this crazy quarrying or ancient mining that's going on here, you've got a plateau that's not touched. So when you look at the topographical, you realize the yellow area is being mined at 3,800 feet above sea level. The river is down there, so we've got about a 2,000 foot difference right there, don't we? Between the yellow and the blue, which is 1155. So when you compare 38 with 1155, we've got a difference of over 2,000 feet. And then there's the red. That's 5439, 5883. So that's another 2,000 feet at the top. And you don't see that activity up there. No, you only see it where the water's been worn down from a water event of some sort. Sometimes these numbers are not so spread out. For example, the Richat structure only goes from 2,000 down to about 1,100 also. So it's the whole scope is only 1,000 feet. So this is a big difference here. I was surprised because, you know, I always question myself. Am I crazy for thinking that these lines could be anything but natural? But when you look at the scope and realize that it's happening in between two layers, and when you back out, you can see straight lines. And when you zoom in, you wonder, first of all, were they in relationship with water? Because when you see this coming through there like that and the lines going perpendicular, I feel like it's almost by design that the water was going to eventually erode it. Was it a long-term project where they made these lines and then they simply walked away, like in some other examples I've shown you? In Africa, I can show you both of these situations. And this, it's just amazing to me that they did this. Who did it? I don't know. It's not very long. It's a couple miles, you know? Then you see these lines being quarried. The question I have is, why would they just walk away from this and not quarry it? And who are they? Mainstream science has an explanation for this. So this is a picture from a sign that I took at Utah. These are plateaus that just break apart into perfect little squares. How is that? I didn't learn this in my brief geology classes. Weathering follows the magic phi number of a 1.6, right? I don't know about this, but when you look at the picture I just showed you here, you're not seeing two sets of lines. You're seeing three sets of parallel lines. It goes across. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. If you go there, they're not perfectly parallel, but they're consistent enough. And then you've got these other set. They're going in this direction. Okay, one more time. We've got these 1, 2, 3 again. Then we've got these 1, 2, 3 going that direction. And last but not least, we've got this other direction here. I can see those lines, and kind of here. They don't look parallel, but this is a funny angle. And they're hard to see in this one. Right there is one of them. Okay, so you have three sets, not two. So again, when you talk about the mainstream explanation, you have to understand that they're kind of ignoring this phenomenon. And when you see the needles, I still think that takes a long time. I don't think that happened overnight. That's another problem with Utah and the Grand Canyon. But when you go back and you see these mounds that were thankfully discovered by one of my viewers, I got to back out to find it. It's right there. You look at that compared to the rest of what's going on, and to me, it's pretty obvious that something carved that shape and the saddle between it. Indie Archaeology's going back this week, and he's going to get some drone shots. Let's see if he hears this message. And there's the Richat up there, but I'm going over here, and hopefully he can take the drive out and get some drone shots of this mountain and this line and how wide it is and how it looks up close from the sky. There's the road right there. So you just get up and climb up there, right? It looks pretty steep. I do believe that this is probably a natural mound also. And over here we have one more. So they're connected in the same way. And I know here's a question. If we take this direction, here, and this direction, and we have to kind of mark it a couple ways. If I point this in, let's just say up-down direction, where do we stand? It's almost 45 degrees. Does that mean it's the solstice? It's aiming towards the solstice? Well, the solstice is 23.5 degrees, so I don't think so. Is it a previous axis of the Earth? Then it's a long time ago, because I don't believe we had an axis shift in the last, I think this was before Atlantis. But I call this route off. I hope that Indie Archaeology goes here and gets a quick drone shot, and maybe both, and if they can go back and forth. How far apart are they? That's another good question. They're not even a mile apart. Okay, so when you go over here and you get to the mound, where's the mound? Let me back out and find that and make sure we're north. There we go. Then we can also follow this same pattern, can't we? And take a look at that. Now the next question is, how far apart are those points? It's actually just 0.13 miles, but they are going in the same direction, aren't they? This is a new revelation, honestly, for me too. I'm discovering it live. But if you take that and you point it up down, you're getting a certain degree. This is it right there. That is the same orientation. I do believe these two mounds were created from mining activity. If you look at this line, there's a bunch of them. I call those quarrying lines. I don't think those are canals. They're out on the other side as well. And they're not just up here by this part. If you go down, you can see them all throughout here. And all the way down here, you can also see them. So there you go. Can you believe that? What are we looking at? We're looking at a correlation here. These two mounds that I'm so curious about, if we orient them like that, or if we make them flat, where it's like 45 degrees almost. When I say 45 degrees, I'm talking about 45 degrees off of the north-south. So it's like, I could call that northwest, 45 degrees from the, I don't know, where do we start there? 0? Have to take a look at that. And then here again, let's make that again, whoops. And here you go. Whoops, that's not working? Oh yeah, 45 is right there. So I was looking at that. Now look at it. It's exactly horizontal. So we have something correlated here. I'm not perfect. I don't know if they were looking for perfection. I think that this was a product of overburden dumping. But it seems like if you look at this, that doesn't seem like a product of overburden dumping. That seems like a deliberate mound put on top of the plateau where they were doing all this work. And you see these things getting cut off. So what it tells me is that there was an event that flooded through there and cut off the shoreline, or created a new shoreline and took away all that stuff. So yeah, you be the judge of what I'm showing you. Any questions over here before I drop out myself? I mean, I didn't really want to do a long video, but I think this is a hot topic. And I think that if you know the Grand Canyon area, I do want to go out there and try to take a look at some of this myself. It can be dangerous. I mean, as we just saw, the road that, well, okay, I didn't show that here. If you go to these areas, first you got to get up here on the top plateau, right? And then take the road over. I found the road earlier. I don't remember. There's a road right there. So we could, is that a car road? Off-road, that's a dirt road. You could take that over there. I don't know the area very well. As I mentioned, I've never visited the Grand Canyon. always avoided that trip because it was always never with my friends in high school. We weren't really into that stuff. Let's see how far we can get. See, and it kind of ends right there, and then you've got a change in what looks like a change in altitude. So even if you can get to these roads, getting down to where these quarry fields are is a different story indeed. Where is it? And you kind of wonder about other possible mounds. But I don't want to be that guy that points at everything and says, yeah, that's another. I'm not that person. So I still question whether or not these types of breakups are natural or not. I just, as I said, using that picture that I showed you about the weathering and the needling, that it just doesn't add up. That's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your time. This was very, and I said his name earlier, and I totally forgot it already. I'm not really good at memorizing names off social media, but I did friend him, so we can talk all about this. He did a great job finding that. And, this is something I'd like to get up against. What's that? Why are we seeing circles? And are these cuts? This whole saddle here is suspect. The circular, is that obviously, you wouldn't call that a circular dike. In mainstream geology, it would have to be a weathering process where this plateau gradually over time gets worked away by erosion, wind erosion, water erosion. But why is it just not matching up with the rest? What's over here? Is that another one? Is that another mound? Not really. Alrighty. That's it. I'm out of here. Yeah, a research grid exactly. And by the way, that's my theory. Sorry, I'm talking to Nathan, who said his first impression was a search grid. And I think the same thing. They were doing some type of... Oh, look, it's back. Not here, but the one that I showed you before, the before and after, is that it was like a search. Like they were just doing these lines, and they were pulling out some stuff when they did that, and they were figuring out what was valuable and where to go. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they were looking for something specific like lithium or gold, obviously, is one of them. This over here on the right kind of tells me they wanted the rock. They wanted the blocks. When you go here in Algeria, and I don't know how to pronounce the place, I want to see these places with these squares, because that looks like deliberate quarrying of large blocks. I got to measure that again, but I think they were 10 feet apart. Can't remember very well. But over here, it's like they're cutting it up to... Not, like if you were going to serve that, nobody's going to serve a cake like that. If you're going to cut a piece of cake, you're going to get a nice cube. Over here, you cut it like that, you're destroying the cake, right? Obviously, my cake analogy is kind of focusing on this quarrying of blocks. And here, I think that maybe they were quarrying ore, and maybe the ore, especially when you see it in the Grand Canyon like that, maybe the ore was collected, like I say, I don't want to theorize on stuff. I just want to show you what we found. So with that being said, y'all have a great day. I know I'm not going to. I got to go do some work, and it's windy. Hell, you do what you can. Let's see if this thing works. Ready, go.